What happens when a laid-back uncle tries to give a genius kid a normal childhood, but family, schools, and the court system all have very different plans? Let's find out. Frank Adler is getting his niece Mary ready for school. He tells her he's making a special breakfast, but Mary isn't impressed and keeps making excuses to avoid going. She worries about who will take care of her one-eyed cat, Fred. Frank reassures her that Fred will be fine. When Mary finally asks what the special breakfast is, Frank shows her a box of cereal with the word special written on it. She's clearly disappointed. Frank walks Mary to the bus stop for her first day of school. As she leaves, Roberta, Frank's neighbor, talks to him and says she's worried about Mary going to school and thinks something might go wrong. Frank listens, but looks uneasy. At school, Mary looks bored and uncomfortable. Her teacher Bonnie walks around the classroom asking students very basic math questions. Mary watches with little interest, clearly thinking the questions are too easy. Bonnie starts asking Mary harder questions. Mary answers them easily at first. When Bonnie asks a multiplication question, Mary pauses for a moment, and Bonnie assumes she's reached her limit. After a short silence, Mary gives the correct answer. Bonnie checks it on a calculator and realizes Mary is unusually good at math. The school principal, Miss Davis, is introduced to the class. Most of the students behave respectfully, but Mary is casual and even shouts at the teachers, telling them to call Frank and take her home. Later that day, Frank comes to pick her up. Bonnie speaks to him and explains that Mary is clearly gifted and not an average child. Frank brushes it off and says Mary is just using a math trick called the Yakow-Trachtenberg method. Bonnie points out that Mary is only 7. Frank replies that he learned the same method when he was 8, so it's not a big deal. Still curious, Bonnie looks up the Trachtenberg method later and is impressed by how advanced it is. Frank spends his time fixing up a boat, and Mary asks if they can take it out for a test run someday. They spend time together at the beach, talking about random things. Frank gently tells Mary that her mother would have wanted her to make friends and have a normal childhood. Mary brings Fred, her cat, to school and proudly shows him to her classmates. She explains that he only has one eye. When the kids ask how that happened, Mary says she doesn't know because she found him in the trash and took him in. Bonnie starts giving Mary extra homework, knowing she'll finish faster than the other students. Mary enjoys the attention, and the two start bonding. Bonnie becomes more curious about Mary's background. She looks up Frank, but doesn't find much. Then she reads about his sister, Diane Adler. Diane was a math prodigy with exceptional talent. A professor from MIT described her as having a rare and powerful mind that could change the world. Bonnie then learns that Diane died by suicide at the age of 27, leaving Mary in Frank's care. Bonnie later meets Frank at a local bar called Ferg. Frank opens up and explains what happened. He says Diane showed up unexpectedly at his place one day with baby Mary and said she needed to talk. Frank told her he was late for a date and would talk later. When he came home that night, he found Mary alone on the couch and Diane dead on the bathroom floor. Even though he knows it wasn't completely his fault, he still feels guilty. Frank adds that Mary's father left shortly after she was born, and his mother, Evelyn, is very strict and controlling. One day on the school bus, Mary notices a classmate carrying a detailed school project. She worries her own work isn't good enough. As the boy walks down the aisle, an older kid trips him, causing his project to break. The bully and other kids laugh. Mary steps in, tells them to stop, and hits the bully in the face with a book. Later, Frank arrives at the school and passes the bully, who has a bloody nose. He checks on Mary to make sure she's okay. The principal explains that violence isn't allowed at school. Frank agrees, but admits he's proud of Mary for standing up for someone weaker. The principal suggests sending Mary to Oaks Academy, a school for gifted children. Frank worries about money, but the principal offers a full scholarship. Frank turns it down, saying Mary deserves a normal life and a regular school. Bonnie questions his decision, and Frank admits he isn't completely sure. Mary later apologizes to her classmates for hitting the bully. The class applauds another student, Justin, and praises his art project. When Frank and Mary get home, they find Mary's grandmother, Evelyn, waiting. She gives Mary an expensive laptop and a book on advanced algebra. Mary casually says she has already read it and is studying even harder math. Frank makes her thank Evelyn. Evelyn criticizes Frank's lifestyle and living conditions. Frank and Evelyn meet for lunch, where she says she's concerned about Mary's future and wants her to live somewhere better. She hints that she's willing to involve authorities and take the matter to court. Frank says Diane would never have wanted that. Evelyn criticizes both Diane and Frank, making it clear this is going to become a legal issue. Later, Frank and Mary spend quiet time together. Mary asks him questions about God and faith. Frank says he has his own views, but doesn't want to influence hers. He mentions that Roberta believes strongly in Faith and cares deeply about her. Frank tells Mary that he believes everything will work out and that, in the end, people find their way back to each other. Roberta shows how much she cares about Frank and Mary by coming to court to support Frank in his fight for custody. It becomes clear that Evelyn wants to take Mary to live with her in Massachusetts, while Frank wants Mary to stay with him in Florida. One night, Frank asks Roberta to watch Mary. Roberta agrees, even though she points out that she's only a neighbor and not a blood relative, so her opinion probably doesn't matter much in court. Still, she says she loves Mary deeply. Mary spends the night at Roberta's place, singing songs with her and having a genuinely good time. Later, Frank meets Bonnie at the bar. Bonnie explains that she wasn't the one who told the principal about Mary's situation. They talk, drink, and grow closer. Bonnie says she shouldn't get involved with him, but despite that, they end up spending the night together. The next day, Mary is looking for a DVD at Frank's house when she sees Bonnie sneaking out of Frank's room. Mary teases him about it. Frank gets annoyed and snaps, saying he can't even have a personal life without it becoming an issue. Mary gets hurt and walks away. Later, Frank apologizes, and they make up. Soon after, Frank checks his mail and finds out that Mary will be spending 2 days in Boston with her grandmother. Roberta criticizes Frank for being careless and not thinking things through. In Boston, Evelyn shows Mary old family photos, including pictures of her mother when she was young. Back in Florida, Frank and Bonnie continue getting closer. Evelyn takes Mary to a university and tells her about the 7 millennium problems, which are famous, unsolved math problems. She shows Mary a photo of mathematician Grigory Perelman, who solved one of them. Evelyn says that Diane could have been just as famous if she had finished solving the Navier-Stokes equation. Mary says she hopes to be on that wall someday. Professor Shanklin gives Mary a very difficult equation to solve. When Mary struggles with it for a while, he suggests to Evelyn that Mary might not be as exceptional as she thinks. As they leave, Evelyn gets upset, but Mary calmly says the equation was wrong and couldn't be solved as written. They go back, Mary fixes the mistake, solves the equation completely, and leaves Shankland stunned. When Mary returns home, she tells Frank that although Evelyn is kind in her own way, she doesn't want to live with her. Frank promises her that she won't be taken away. Mary later meets with a social worker named Pat, who asks her questions about her daily life. Mary mentions watching mixed martial arts with Frank and says he's a good person. When Pat asks why she believes that, Mary explains that Frank wanted her from the start, not because she's smart, but because she's his family. In court, Mary's biological father shows up and supports Evelyn getting custody. Frank's lawyer questions him and quickly exposes that he barely knows anything about Mary, not even her middle name, and has never really been part of her life. Frank wins this part of the case. Afterward, Evelyn tells Frank that she doesn't like being in conflict with her son. Frank replies that they've always had disagreements. Mary later locks herself in her room and cries because her father doesn't even try to see her while he's in town. To distract her, Frank takes Mary and Roberta to the hospital, where they wait for the birth of Roberta's baby. Frank tells Mary that she was born in a similar setting and that everyone was overjoyed when she arrived. Mary celebrates with the families at the hospital and cheers up. Back in court, Evelyn testifies. Frank's lawyer points out how Evelyn controlled Diane's life, never letting her do anything except study math. Diane never played sports or lived like a normal kid. The lawyer brings up Diane's first love, Paul, and how they once ran away together on a ski trip. Evelyn had them tracked down and filed kidnapping charges, which deeply distressed Diane and led to a suicide attempt years earlier. Evelyn downplays it and insists she did her best as a mother. Frank testifies next, explaining that he works freelance repairing boats. Evelyn's lawyer raises concerns about Mary's education, health care, and safety. Frank insists he wants Mary to grow up like a normal child. The lawyer also brings up Mary hitting the school bully and Frank once getting into a fight. Frank explains that his fight was self-defense against a drunk man and admits he spent one night in jail. That evening, Frank's lawyer suggests a temporary solution. Mary could live with a foster family until she turns 12 and can choose where she wants to live. The foster family lives in Tampa, only half an hour away, so Frank and Evelyn could both visit. With no better options, Frank agrees. Sending Mary away is painful. She cries and begs Frank not to leave her, reminding him of his promise. After she leaves, Frank and Roberta grieve quietly. Frank later tells Bonnie that he has blamed himself many times and even considered giving Mary up before, but never could. Frank goes to visit Mary, but the foster father tells him that Mary doesn't want to see him. Frank is crushed. Roberta tries to comfort him. Bonnie later notices a flyer for adoptable animals and realizes Fred, Mary's cat, is on it. She sends it to Frank. Frank rushes to animal services and rescues Fred, along with 2 other cats. It turns out Evelyn was the one who put Fred up for adoption. Frank and Roberta then rush to Tampa to see Mary. Frank confronts Evelyn and shows her proof that Diane actually finished the Navier-Stokes proof. Diane wanted it published only after Evelyn's death. Faced with this truth, Evelyn backs down. Frank and Mary reunite and leave together with Roberta, relieved and happy. Evelyn is left alone reading Diane's old notes filled with math and small doodles. She breaks down and later contacts MIT to speak with Shankland. In the end, Mary attends university classes while still living a normal life. Frank picks her up afterward and gives her a book by René Descartes about existence. Mary jokes about it. Frank drops her at the park, where she happily plays with other girls from her scout group. Frank smiles, watching from a distance.